Assalamu alaikum. My dear brothers and sisters, come closer. Slow your breathing. Let the noise inside you settle for a moment. This moment is not accidental. You were not scrolling randomly. You were not meant to pass by these words. Allah chose this second. He chose you because your heart has been carrying too much silently. My dear soul, how do your mornings really begin? Before your eyes fully open, your chest already tightens. Thoughts rush in faster than light. Risk, future, responsibilities, fear. You don't say out loud. You lie there pretending strength, but your heart is already tired. You calculate life before you even say Bismillah. You plan, you push. You rely on effort so heavily that your soul barely breathes. You tell yourself you have tawakkul, but your nights are restless. Your dua feels heavy. Your heart feels alone even while believing. My heart, this pain you feel is not because Allah abandoned you. It is because you are holding what Allah never asked you to hold. You were never meant to carry tomorrow. You were never meant to guarantee outcomes. You were never meant to control provision. Allah is Ar-Razak, not the one who sometimes provides, the one who provided before you were born, before you planned, before you worried. Allah is Al-Latif, so gentle that His help arrives quietly while you are busy panicking loudly. Allah is Al-Wakil, the one who manages what keeps you awake at night, even when you forget His name. Did He not expand the chest after constriction? Did He not promise ease after pressure? Did a prophet ever teach fear of tomorrow or trust rooted so deeply that storms could not shake it? False tawakkul whispers something dangerous. It tells you to either sit back carelessly or run until you break. True tawakkul feels different. It allows the hands to move, but the heart stays kneeling. You work, but you don't worship effort. You plan, but you don't trust plans. You strive, but our peace stays tied to Allah. Barakah. It does not shout. It does not sparkle. It quietly stretches what should have broken. Barakah is when little becomes enough, when time expands, when ease enters places that logic cannot explain. Some hearts are wealthy, but constantly restless. Some hearts are simple, yet deeply content. Barakah is not more, it is right. Especially in the mornings, the after Fajr, that hour when the world is asleep and the sky listens. When angels witness your standing, when the heart is soft, before the day hardens it. After Fajr, your soul is closest to surrender. Your risk is being written. Your steps for the day are unfolding. After Fajr, when you whisper, Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa, it is not a phrase, it is a release. After Fajr, when you opened a Quran, even for one ayah, Allah speaks directly to the cracks in your heart. After Fajr, when you ask for provision, before chasing it, you are reminding yourself who truly sends it. After Fajr, when you give something small away, you tell your nafs, I trust Allah more than what I hold. After Fajr, when you set intention, not for success, but for Allah's pleasure, your day walks under protection. Look at the parent whose shoulders feel heavy, yet Allah places sakina in their home. Look at the worker whose income seems limited, yet it carries them with dignity. Look at the student who feels behind the world, yet Allah opens understanding at the perfect moment. No loud miracles, no dramatic signs, just quiet mercy, just steady barakah. My dear heart, Allah is not asking you to saint. OP trying. He is asking you to stop carrying. Give the fear back to Him. Give the future back to Him. Give the outcome back to Him. Let your hands move. Let your heart rest. This is tawakkul. My dear soul, There is a quiet damage happening inside you, and you may not even have a name for it. You were taught tawakkul, but somewhere along the way, it became confused, diluted, misunderstood. You were told, trust Allah. So you stopped moving, stopped trying fully, stopped taking responsibility for what your hands were capable of. And slowly, your heart grew heavier. Because deep inside, you know Allah never asked you to abandon effort. He asked you to abandon attachment. False tawakkul feels peaceful at first. It feels like relief, like letting go. But over time, it turns into goo. Guilt, then regret, then exhaustion. You sit still, waiting for Allah to change your situation, while your heart whispers, but I could have done more, and that whisper drains you. This kind of tawakkul quietly weakens trust, because when results don't come, you begin to feel distant from Allah, confused, disappointed. Not because Allah failed you, but because your heart expected ease without movement. My heart. Allah created your hands for a reason, your mind for a reason, your strength for a reason. When you refuse to use them, your soul feels out of place, like a bird refusing to fly, and blaming the sky for being far. True tawakkul does not paralyze. It steadies. It allows you to walk forward without your heart trembling at every outcome. False tawakkul makes you passive, then anxious, then spiritually tired, because the nafs hates responsibility, but the soul was created to strive. And when the soul is denied movement, it aches. Allah never wanted you to sit back in fear or hide behind the word trust. He wanted you to move with humility, knowing that success does not come from effort alone. But effort is an act of obedience. When tawakkul is misunderstood, the heart slowly collapses under unmet expectations. Not because Allah is distant, but because the balance was lost. My dear heart, there is a fear that wakes before you do. It does not knock. It rushes in. Fear of risk, not hunger. Poverty, but uncertainty. That quiet panic that asks, what if it's not enough? What if it stops? What if Allah doesn't send it this time? You may never say these words out loud, but your chest knows them well. This fear slowly replaces yaqeen. It sits where certainty once lived. It convinces you to grip tighter, to count more, to trust numbers more than promises. You begin measuring our worth by what you earn, your safety by what you control. And without realizing it, our razak moves to the background, while means move to the center. My soul. Risk was written before your first breath, not loosely, not randomly, with precision and mercy. Every meal you ever ate arrived by His command, not by your anxiety. But fear makes you forget that. It makes you overwork the heart. Exhausting the body. It turns dua into backup instead of foundation. You say you trust Allah, yet your mind keeps rehearsing disaster. You pray, but your heart is already preparing for loss. This fear does not make you safer. It makes you tired, because the heart was never designed to guard provision. That role belongs to Allah alone. When fear of risk grows, gratitude shrinks, contentment fades, and peace becomes conditional. Not because Allah withheld, but because fear blocked the sweetness of reliance. My dear soul, Allah does not test you by withholding risk. He tests you by how you carry it. Risk flows best through a heart that trusts quietly, moves honestly, and rests in the promise that what is written will never miss you. My dear soul, you are so busy doing that you have forgotten how to rest in Allah. Your days are filled with motion. Your nights are filled with thought. Your heart is constantly running, yet it feels like it is getting nowhere. You plan every detail. You calculate every outcome. You replay conversations. You prepare for disasters that never arrive. And slowly, your trust shifts. Not away from Allah in words, but away from Him in weight. Effort becomes the savior. Strategy becomes the shield. Control becomes the comfort. Your heart starts believing that if you stop thinking, everything will fall apart. That if you don't over-prepare, Allah might not show up in time. My heart, this is the soul drowning in effort and starving of trust. Because effort without surrender turns into pressure, and pressure crushes the heart quietly. You wake up tired, not because you worked hard, but because your heart never slept. You worship movement, but forget stillness. You exhaust the body, while the soul waits for sujood to breathe. Allah never asked you to manage every possibility. He never asked you to predict every turn of life. He asked you to walk and let Him carry the unseen. When the heart clings to effort, dua becomes rus. Head, dhikr becomes mechanical. Salah becomes another task. Not because you don't love Allah, but because your trust is overloaded. My dear soul, effort is meant to be an offering, not a replacement for reliance. The moment effort takes the throne, peace steps down, and the heart feels it immediately. My dear heart, sometimes it feels like Allah is silent, like help is delayed, like doors are refused to open no matter how much you knock. And quietly, a thought forms inside you. Why isn't Allah helping me? That thought hurts. Because you still believe, you still pray, yet the weight remains. But my soul, Allah was never absent. Your reliance was divided. Half of your heart runs toward Allah in dua. The other half clings to backup plans, to people, to guarantees, to control. And heart pulled in two directions, cannot feel the sweetness of help. Allah is al-wakil, but only for the heart that truly hands things over. When reliance is split, the soul stays restless, because deep down, you are still trying to be your own protector. You ask Allah for ease, but fear letting go of outcomes. You pray for openings, but refuse to release timelines. My dear soul, Allah's helpful, owes fully, only when the heart empties space for it. Not because Allah withholds, but because trust is a vessel, and a vessel already full of anxiety cannot receive peace. Sometimes Allah delays not to punish, but to purify reliance, to strip the heart of false supports, to remind you who truly carries affairs. When people fail you, when plans collapse, when certainty shakes, it is not rejection. It is Allah gently asking, will you trust me alone? The moment the heart stops negotiating, help arrives differently, quietly, perfectly timed. Not always as relief, sometimes as strength, sometimes as patience, sometimes as clarity. My dear heart, Allah's help has never been late. It only waits for the heart to stop holding on to what was never meant to hold you. My dear soul, there is a sadness you cannot explain, even when things seem fine. On the surface, you have enough. You are surviving, yet something feels hollow. This is what happens when outcomes become more important than obedience. When the heart begins chasing results, it slowly forgets why it moves. You start praying for success, not closeness. You obey when it benefits, not when it humbles. And quietly, barakah slips away, not as punishment, as consequence. Because barakah does not live where impatience rules, it settles in hearts that prioritize Allah over outcomes. My heart, Allah never promised immediate results. He promised His presence. When obedience becomes transactional, the soul grows restless, always asking, did it work? Did Allah give me what I wanted? But obedience was never a bargain. It was always an act of love. Barakah comes when you pray, even when nothing changes, when you choose halal, even when shortcuts tempt you, when you stand for fajr, even when the world seems asleep to your effort. Outcomes fluctuate, but obedience anchors. When results matter more than obedience, gratitude becomes conditional. Patience thins and trust weakens. You begin measuring Allah's care by what you receive, not by how He protects you unseen. My dear soul, barakah is lost, not when Allah withholds, but when the heart stops seeing Him as the goal. When obedience becomes the destination, barakah returns quietly, in time, in peace, in unseen ease. Because Allah places expansion, not in results alone, but in hearts that choose Him, even when nothing seems to move. My dear heart, many people think tawakkul begins after they see results, after doors open, after relief arrives. But real tawakkul is born in the quiet hours before anything changes. It begins after fajr, that moment when the world is still dark, when distractions have not yet claimed you, when your heart is closest to its original softness. After fajr, the soul has not yet been hardened by effort. Fear has not yet taken its position. Hope is still pure. This is where trust is decided. If you rush to the world immediately, checking, chasing, calculating, your heart learns to depend before it surrenders. But when you pause after fajr, even briefly, you tell your soul, Allah comes first. My dear soul, tawakkul is not something you declare. It is something you practice. Before the test arrives, after fajr, when you sit with Allah, before sitting with your worries, your heart is trained to release a whispered, Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa, at that hour, weighs heavier than 1,000 anxious thoughts later. When trust is planted after fajr, the day bends around it, problems do not disappear, but they lose their power. Your steps feel lighter. Your chest feels wider. Your reactions soften. Because the heart already decided who carries the load. My dear heart, if you delay tawakkul until outcomes appear, you will always feel unstable. But when you place your trust before effort begins, every action becomes ibadah. And the soul learns that peace does not arrive after but after surrender. My dear soul, healing trust is not found in knowing more. It is not found in planning harder. It is found in returning, always returning to Allah. The heart becomes fragile when it forgets who holds the unseen, when it measures security by effort alone, when it counts provision before it counts Allah. My dear heart, every moment spent clinging to worry is a moment lost from surrender. Every second spent fearing what may come is a second stolen from certainty. Healing begins when the hands move, but the heart stays with Allah first. When the eyes open in fajr and the soul whispers, You are enough for me, Allah. You are my provider, my guard, my guide. It is not dramatic. It does not shout. It is quiet, patient, steady. When you return your heart first, the hands follow differently. Effort is lighter. Work is easier. Decisions feel guided, as if unseen fingers are gently steering. Trust is restored, not because results are perfect, but because reliance finds its true home. Even the smallest actions heal the heart. A whispered dhikr while sipping water, a slow recitation of a verse before starting work, a tiny act of charity before the world sees. These are the stitches that repair a wounded trust. My dear soul, Allah does not need you to control everything. He only asks that you choose Him before the rest. Return your weight, return your fear, return your outcome. And in that return, the heart learns again that reliance is not a concept. It is a living, breathing connection, a quiet conversation between you and the one who never turns away. It is in that returning that the soul finds ease, even when the world is uncertain. My dear heart, listen carefully. Tawakkul is not a word you say. It is a place you rest, a place where the chest softens, where fear loosens its grip, and where hope is no longer fragile but rooted. Return to Allah before you move. Return to Him before you chase. Return to Him before the worry becomes louder than your dua. Trust is not in what you can control. Trust is in the one who has always controlled everything, even when you thought He was silent. Give Him the weight of your tomorrow. Give Him the fear you have carried for years. Give Him the outcomes you cling to. And then walk. Walk with effort, but with a heart that is finally at ease, because a true tawakkul is a heart that moves, but rests completely in Allah. Reflect, share, make intention, return, and let your soul breathe again in His presence.